So picture this, it's Friday night and mom says you can rent a movie, and if you played your cards just right that week, then maybe, just maybe, you got to rent a game too. But here's the thing about the early 90s, if there was a kids movie in theaters, I can almost guarantee you that a game of that movie was sitting on the shelves as well. It didn't matter if the movie was a hit or a flop. It didn't matter if the movie even made sense as a video game. Somebody somewhere signed a licensing deal, gave some poor developer about 8 months, and said have it on shelves by November. And most of the time, the results are about what you'd expect. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're doing a kids movie night. Sort of like a hypothetical thing. Like, what if you rented the movie and the movie's game at the same time? Because I'm hoping I'm not the only kid that ever did that. So these are 4 kids movies and their games in tow. We've got a trio of pint-sized ninjas, a Macaulay Culkin cartoon about the power of reading, a big old wet dog, and a time-traveling T-Rex that parachutes into New York City. So grab a bucket of popcorn and a controller, and let's get these flicks rolling. First up is Three Ninjas Kick Back, and yes, this one is actually based on the sequel, not the original Three Ninjas movie. If you don't remember the Three Ninjas movies, or if your brain just refuses to remember, here's the pitch. If kids really liked Home Alone, then they'll love Home Alone with ninjas. 3 brothers, Rocky, Colt, and Tum Tum, get trained by their grandfather to be ninjas, and then they beat up bumbling adult criminals for about 90 minutes. It was basically just Ninja Turtles minus the Turtles part, riding at the tail end of that ninja craze that was going on back then. And it's a totally fun 90s kids movie, at least I think so anyway. It's still fun to watch these days. The game came out in late 1994, developed by Malibu Interactive and published by Sony ImageSoft, which is never a good sign. But there is a fun little bit of licensing chaos here. The Genesis version was published by a completely different company, Psygnosis, but there was actually a Sega CD version that was published by Sony ImageSoft. But you couldn't even buy that one on its own. It came bundled with the Sega CD Hook game, which might be the most early 90s sentence that I've ever said.
Time is limited. So be swift.
But what about the game, and why does everyone hate it so much? It's basically just an action platformer. You pick one of 3 brothers, all with their own unique weapons. Rocky's got a bow staff, Colt's got a katana, and Tum Tum's rocking twin sais. Remember when I said this was basically just Ninja Turtles without the turtles? I wasn't kidding. The story is that Splinter, their grandpa's magical dagger got stolen by his old rival Koga 50 years ago, and now he's sending his 3 grandchildren to get it back, which, sure, send the children, Grandpa. Great plan. And as soon as you pick your character, the game hits you with this.
Let's murder Liza!
Which is charming exactly 1 time. Unfortunately, you're gonna get to hear it a lot more. Get into the game though, and it's exactly what you'd expect for the most part. You run around, beat up some ninjas, do some platforming, and so on. Some stages do give you objectives like finding all the training dummies or rescuing people that's been tied up, but for the most part, the stages aren't really big enough that you'll miss any of them. Some stages also have you going full Home Alone on the game's Goon Squad, where you can't directly take them out with your attacks, and you instead have to use the various stuff laying around to stun them so you can get by them. It's a cute idea, and some of the traps are kind of fun, but most of the time you can just jump over them and keep going about your business. But my god, does this game love its cheap hits. Just about everything in this game is placed for maximum cheapness. Enemies just off screen that fire projectiles before you can even see them. Platforms that require exact timing, and jumps that of course send you into spike pits. It just never ends. And after that, you're right back at that character select screen.
Let's murder Liza!
Yeah, dude, I get it. You don't have to say that anymore. Hell, the game literally starts with a boulder that instantly rolls your ass over. This is supposed to be the training stage, Grandpa. What the hell are we even doing here? But is it terrible? No, not really. It's just really annoying. If it would have been designed by people that didn't hate the kid playing it, then this would have been a decent little game for Three Ninjas fans. As it stands, I wouldn't touch this one unless you just like punishment. There is some charm and nostalgia to it, just due to how ridiculous it is, but the cheapness that pervades every square inch of this game makes it a tough recommendation. I'm guessing if you rented this movie on a Friday night, you were probably done with it by Saturday afternoon and were back watching the movie instead. Next up is the Pagemaster, and out of tonight's 4 games, this is the one that I'd actually call decent, I guess, or maybe just mostly okay, which tells you a lot about the games in this video. First up, a quick refresher on the movie if you haven't seen it. The Pagemaster came out back in 1994, starring Macaulay Culkin as a kid who's basically scared of everything, then gets trapped in a magical library during a storm, turns into a cartoon, and travels through the worlds of horror, adventure, and fantasy with 3 talking books. It was one of the first movies back then to mix live action, hand-drawn animation, and CGI all in one movie, and it still flopped. It turns out that reading is fun is a tough sell when you're going up against the likes of The Lion King. Kids that did watch it though seemed to like it well enough, it just never hit the masses like it was expected to. But as for the game, this one was actually developed by our old friends at Probe Software over in the UK, and this was one of the very first games that was ever published by Fox Interactive. Their first 2 releases were this and The Tick. You guys remember that Tick game we covered last year? If not, go check it out, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's miserable. Also, fun fact, The Tick was actually made by Software Creations, the same guys that made the Plock game. It's funny how all the games we cover on here just sort of connect in one way or another. Anyway, the game follows the movie's setup pretty faithfully. You're Richard and you're stuck in a library and you've got to work your way through 3 books. And structurally, the game is actually kind of interesting. Instead of a handful of long stages, you get over 60 short ones, some of them that you can clear in like under 30 seconds. And there are actually branching paths, so you don't even have to play them all. You can pick your own route through each book, which for a game about books, a choose-your-own-adventure structure is honestly a clever fit. And there's some fun stuff to find in here as well. Hidden areas are in a ton of the stages, and there's also Mode 7 bonus levels because it's 1994 and legally every Super Nintendo game needed at least one Mode 7 section. So what's the catch with this one? It seems like it should be a solid hidden gem, right? Well, it's the usual culprit, the controls. Richard is just slippery as all hell. He skids when he stops, and his jump launches him way further than you'd think it should, and the hit detection when you're bouncing off of enemies is very picky. If you're not just right on top of a bad guy when you land, you take the hit instead. And since you're usually a one-hit wonder until you find a power-up, that makes a lot of this game extremely annoying. But the game at least showers you with so many extra lives and power-ups that the slippery controls never really get a chance to completely kill the experience. It's just something that takes a minute to get used to and will still probably have you misjudging jumps the whole way through the game. Overall though, I don't hate it. It does have some really nice graphics and animation, though this does kind of seem like Probe doing their best to copy Aladdin on the Genesis here, just with crappier controls. But would it have been a fun rental along with the movie? Honestly, yeah, I think it would have done the job. It follows the movie pretty well, has a lot of the same characters, and like most Probe Software movie titles, doesn't completely crap the bed. So I think watching this movie and then playing this right after would have been a pretty good time, and I think a lot of kids that played this one back in the day feel the same way. Okay, let's do a quick one next because for whatever reason I get recommended this one a lot in these movie videos. This is Beethoven's second for the Super Nintendo. Yes, another sequel. Because if a movie about a big dog could make money in 1992, then a sequel about that same big dog, except having puppies now, could make even more money in 1993. And if that could make money, well, someone was gonna make a video game about it eventually, and that's what happened here. That someone is Rydell or Riedel, I don't know, Software Productions, published by High Tech Expressions in December of 1993. And remember that publisher name because it's about to come up again in like 3 minutes. This one isn't your typical bad platformer though. This one's a bad platformer with escort missions. Beethoven's 4 puppies have gone missing, and it's up to Dad to go find them. You basically just need to guide Beethoven to the end of the level to find your missing puppy. But once you find said puppy, you have to carry it back through the level that you just cleared, in your mouth. So you have to keep slowly putting this dog down and then picking it back up so you can make your way back through the stage and actually complete it this time. It's essentially an escort mission where the escort dangles from your face. Your main weapon is barking, which you can charge up for extra range, but the best attack in the game is that if you find a water source, like a fountain or something like that, then you can get Beethoven wet, and then do the big old wet dog shake to wipe out any enemy that's nearby you. And that's actually a really fun idea, a dog game where the super move is just being a wet dog. Unfortunately, that's about where the fun ideas run out, because Beethoven handles like exactly what he is, a 150-pound dog with no traction at all. And his jump is just maddening. Sometimes he does this big lunging leap that clears the gap, but other times he just hops straight up with no real forward momentum. And you cannot tell which one you're gonna get until you're already falling. And the number one killer in this game, it's not the dog catchers, it's not the mean cats, it's garden gates. You are going to impale this poor dog on a ton of suburban fencing just because the hit detection in this game requires every millimeter of Beethoven to clear an object. Nintendo Power actually reviewed this game back in the day, and the nicest thing they could come up with was that some of the graphics look okay when they're not moving. That's a hell of a back-of-the-box quote. Obviously, this is not a good game. Controls, stage design, and everything else just suck. Even the game's main font looks like someone scribbled it in Mario Paint. So if you happen to rent this one with the movie, either you played it for like 20 minutes before you realized you'd made a horrible mistake, or you just handed this one off to your little sister. Either way though, that dog is for sure getting impaled on a fence. And finally, we arrive at our main event. We're back, a Dinosaur story. This is another one where both the movie and the game flopped, but unlike the movie though, the game is just completely awful. The movie is a 1993 animated Spielberg production about dinosaurs who get made smart by a scientist from the future, fly to modern-day New York, and then befriend some kids. It's based off a popular kids book that I never read, but it opened up against some really tough holiday competition at the time, and then became one of those movies that everyone kind of vaguely remembers, but no one ever actually watched. The game hit the Super Nintendo that same November, published by, I had told you these guys were coming back, High Tech Expressions. That's right, the wet dog people. The developer for the game, though, was Visual Concepts, and if that name sounds familiar, it should, because that studio is still around today, making NBA 2K. They were also one of the only things keeping the Dreamcast alive in the US back in the early 2000s. So these guys obviously came into their own, but unfortunately, everybody's got to start from somewhere.
Ryan, you're gonna get roofed.
Shut up, quadruped.
Now, weirdly, the game doesn't even follow the movie's plot. Instead, Professor Screw-Eyes has kidnapped the kids, Louie and Cecilia, and Rex the T-Rex now has to travel through time to rescue them. You get 5 levels that are basically just all set in New York, so you don't even get to do the Cretaceous period in this one, and the game opens with Rex parachuting into Manhattan, which is sadly the single best thing in this entire game, and it happens before you even press a button. Because once you do press a button, you instantly regret it. Rex controls like an aircraft carrier on ice. He takes a second to get up to speed, his jump has this weird delay to it, and the platforming is one of those deals where you can fall straight through a ledge unless you just land on the one magic pixel that the game wants you to. And this is a game with a lot of platforming. Also, just look at the size of him. If you thought Beethoven's hitbox was bad, Rex takes hits before anything even touches him because of how huge he is. And even worse, Rex apparently isn't very good at being what he is, which is a Tyrannosaurus Rex in case you haven't noticed. 10 tons of teeth and attitude according to the box. But in this game, just brushing up against regular human guys hurts you. And a dude leaning out a window can take down the most fearsome predator in Earth's history. You do get a tail swipe and a stomp, which does seem like what a T-Rex would do, but even then, you've got to power yourself up just to do those things. Also, this is yet another game filled with cheap hits. There's this subway level where the train just instantly kills you with barely any warning, and there's spikes and obstacles scattered everywhere, just daring you to jump over them. I can't accurately describe just how awful this game controls. It's like you're constantly fighting with it every single jump. The one neat idea that the game does have is that Rex can call in his dinosaur friends for help at certain points, if you find their icons in each stage. It's a nice nod to the movie, but finding your buddies takes some exploring in a game filled with blind jumps into spikes. So if you rented this one and the movie, then you were probably let down on both fronts. The movie isn't bad, but it somehow made a story about dinosaurs in New York kinda boring. But it's still fun to look at with some really great early 90s animation. The game, though, is just complete garbage and a total letdown if you did happen to like the movie. And that's it for Kids Movie Night. 4 movies, 4 games, and honestly, just 4 different types of mid. But here's the thing, it didn't matter that these games were mid, because on a Friday night in 1994, with a movie and a game and a 2-liter of whatever was on sale at the video store, mid was more than enough. And there's so many more of these. Every kids movie basically from this era got a video game. So if there's one that you remember renting on movie night, or even without a movie night, good, bad, or completely forgettable, let me know in the comments because I'm sure I'll eventually cover it. Also, maybe like or hype this video if you had a good time, and you can also subscribe if you want to see some more licensed movie video games in the future. But as always, thanks for watching this stuff, and have a great week, guys.